self-care is like, well, how about you go home and take a bath so that you can work 12 hours for us tomorrow? Like, where you seem like you're really upset. Maybe you should go home and, like, you know, cook yourself a meal so that you can go on and do this. It's not about taking care of yourself for the point of taking care of yourself. It's about taking care of yourself so that you can be more effective at your job, so you can be more productive in the capitalist economy.
January. The month known as the quintessential fresh start. The blank canvas. The first chapter of a new book. Cheesy, I know, and while these metaphors often have great intentions, they fall short in practice. I know this because I used to make a lot of New Year's resolutions. I was determined to shrink myself, both literally and figuratively, in hopes of fitting into spaces and boxes that didn't have room for me. While feeling confident in your skin and prioritizing your health are two admirable goals, my resolutions failed to accomplish either. So I stopped making them. 1, because they didn't work, and 2, because I started realizing there are far more important things to focus on in your 20s. Even if I managed to shrink myself into society's praiseworthy form of thinness, I'd still be me underneath that skin. And I struggled with liking who that was. I've written about self-love and self-care more this past month than I have in my entire life. And I think it's because I'm finally starting to understand what they mean.
She's doing it.
February. I'm learning that self-care is a lot different than #self-care. BuzzFeed articles about celebrity self-care routines are, at their best, satirical comedy, and at their worst, exploitative. The monetization of self-care has created a $10 billion industry full of bath bombs, essential oils, candles, and other products promising to sell you peace of mind. The overwhelming pressure to buy into self-care is disorienting. As it turns out, sitting in a bubble bath while binging pints of ice cream doesn't actually make me feel good. It might numb discomfort temporarily or distract my brain from unwanted emotions, but that's not sustainable. To me, true self-care isn't loud or showy. It doesn't cater to the ego, and it's not intended for instant gratification. Self-care in my life is actually incredibly boring and difficult. It's remembering to breathe, going to the grocery store when you have no energy, cleaning your floors, doing your laundry. It's going outside, moving your body. It's washing your hair and calling the people you love. Self-care means setting boundaries, unfollowing social media accounts that make you hate yourself, going to bed at a decent hour. None of these things are necessarily fun, but they work. It's worth noting that self-care should be focused on making you feel good. That's it. It shouldn't be seen as the catalyst to becoming a productivity powerhouse or the ticket to feeling more comfortable spending obscene amounts of your life sitting at a desk. Self-care is not a means to an end. It's the whole thing. March. After doing some research, I discovered the concept of self-care originated back in the 1980s. Black feminist Audre Lorde was fighting cancer and the political status quo when she declared that caring for herself was not an act of self-indulgence, but self-preservation, and that was an act of political warfare. Like most things seen in pop culture, the term was later put through the ringer of late-stage capitalism and then appropriated by white corporate feminism and the industrial wellness complex. Some argue that the problems with self-care are embedded in the very term, self. It's rooted in the tradition of looking out for ourselves rather than acknowledging the intrinsic connection we share with fellow humans. It's interesting to think about what could be if we instead focused on collective care. Because collective care exists outside the market. It can't be sold as a product. We can't exclude people from participating in it. Collective care could look like being a better neighbor, being a better friend, picking up waste, or just listening to someone in need. Over the past year, I've realized how vital community care is. Whether you're up against a global pandemic or systemic racism, we have to show up for hurting communities. We have to be better to each other, for each other. Ultimately, I know it's a work in progress. Self-care is not a one-time get-rich scheme for a healthy heart. I know I'll mess up along the way, but returning to vulnerability and focusing on my community is what'll keep me going.